David Ben joins me now. Studio Q, welcome.
Thank you.
So set the scene for us a bit with this new show. What kind of tricks do you perform in Tricks?
What we've done is we've had previous shows, including The Conjurer, where we explored magic from a golden age, stage magic. And this one we wanted to take people to an abstract notion of a salon. Late Victorian, Edwardian times, yet augmented by rear screen projection and video. So it sort of straddles many decades. And so it's really mining the canon of the great sleight of hand pieces with my own sort of arrangements or takes, just like the duo did to their own pieces. And that's so with magic, with a lot of audience participation. It's different objects, but it's all sleight of hand based primarily.
So it's inspired by the likes of Harry Houdini and Di Vernon, but also...
Yes, I draw inspiration from a variety of sources. You mentioned Sinatra. We opened the piece with where I sort of paint an abstract portrait of a member of the audience, and that was inspired by Telford Fenton, a Canadian portrait painter who did my portrait years ago. And when I was in his studio, he was just blaring Frank Sinatra at the Sands. And so I had our composer, John Lang, write a Sinatra-esque tune, a Nelson Riddle-style arrangement for Sinatra at the Sands in 1966. And
you said magic is musical.
Yes, very musical. I think that magic's all about flow. Flow creates deception. And I think I approach my hands are my tools, just like a musician's, and I think each piece of magic has an internal rhythm that allows you to connect with an audience.
Has a different rhythm.
Has a different rhythm. So we structure the show with different pacing, different pauses, different breaks, different attacks, if you will, that creates the dynamic range of magic.
Magic is already pretty theatrical, but you seem to have really leaned into that theatrical element and aspect and the narrative aspect. Why is this a time to do that?
Well, I think staging now allows us to do that. And I think traditionally magic's been around for, thousands of years, but let's say in the last 500, it's been a lone wolf performer syndrome. You travel around, you do your show. But now in a theater, we can draw on the talents of lighting designers and set designers and video designers. And I think that just provides that greater context for magic. And the greater context for it, the stronger it'll be.
Why is narrative and storytelling important for you with magic?
Well, I think that all people love stories, and we want to take people on a journey. That's the role of entertainment. It's the role of magic. Luc Sant said that the role of really secrets, and I say magic, is to not make people feel small, but to make our world seem bigger, and storytelling does that. And when I was creating the show originally, I thought of Scheherazad's tales, and if I had to tell a different tale every night to sort of save my life, what would they be? Well, they'd be these magic tricks, and these magic tricks have a beginning, a middle, and an end, just like a musical composition or a great story.
So many references you've already thrown out here to great artists through the years. A lot of people think of magic not quite as an art, as something kind of hokey. How do you see magic?
Well, I think magic is primarily a craft, but in the hands of an artist, it can become an art. And for me, an artist is someone who has a firm understanding of the past, a great mastery of technique, and some sort of vision on how it can be altered. And I would like to think, I hope that that's how I approach this work as well. I've always been afraid of the A word, that is the artist word, because I have so much respect for artists. But magic is a craft, but in the hands of an artist, it can become an art.
What's made you embrace the A word, the art word?
Well, I've been obsessed with this for 35 plus years now, and it's taken me a long time to actually say to people, well, I'm not a magician, perhaps I'm an artist, but that's not really for me to decide.
So let's go through these distinctions between a craft and an art.
Right.
How do you elevate a craft into an art?
Well, I think it comes down to some of those things. It's that I think a large part of it is the passion with which you can combine your understanding of what's gone before, and I think you need great technique, and you have to have that mindset. So I turn to inspirations like Glenn Gould, who's an inspiration for this particular show, and a particular piece in the show. And I think of Glenn having that understanding of repertoire and yet a virtuoso technique, and yet that vision to start combining and going into the studio and manipulating electronics and the whole digital realm, or at least pre-digital, just that avenue of electronic manipulation of music, and that's a new vision, and all of that combined to that dedication of his life. And I mean, maybe you could do that with any craft, I'm not sure, but magic's not a traditional art in like painting or music or things like that. But as I said, because it takes place in the theater and in the hands of a great artist, I think it elevates people to a different realm like art can.
What about the craft of tax law?
Well, it's funny that the craft of tax law. Yes, I was a tax lawyer in a previous life, and
Was there magic in that
I
for
think
you?
there was. I have a sort of a twisted mindset, I suppose. I never thought I'd be a lawyer, or a tax lawyer. But when I was introduced to it, I realized that the Income Tax Act was just like a magic trick in a sense. That you have all these different colors within the Income Tax Act, which were little phrases that you manipulate to create different effects, and it was an endless source of an outlet for creativity.
Well, I saw you make $20 disappear and reappear somewhere else.
Yes, that's been an interesting piece. We borrow some money from someone in the audience. It's destroyed and is found rolled up in a cigarette. And I've done that piece for a long, long time. And it's funny because when we did it 30 years ago, everybody was smoking. And now there's one person who may applaud. And if not, we're prepared if they don't have cigarettes. But it's funny to see the social dynamic change.
That was supposed to be a joke about tax law, but I'm glad you explained that trick as well. What made you want to make the leap, give up law for magic?
Well, I think that I didn't want to practice law for 25 years and say, what if? And I believe that I've had many great mentors. And one of my mentors, Alan Slate, was really big about passion. And I think if you have the passion for the subject and you love it, I think you have to go for it. And I always had a background that I could fall back on. And fortunately, I haven't had to use that. So I don't want to live my life with regret.
What did it look like for you? Was it step by step, sort of untethering yourself from that job?
Well, I was performing magic since I was about 15 or 16. And so it financed my education. And then, so I had a database of like meeting planners and agents in place. And I left on law on October 31st, not because it's, National Magic Day and the anniversary of Harry Houdini, but because I would be primed for the holiday season, which was prime cash flow season for gigs. And so that gave me enough, cash flow to sustain the first winter. And then I just worked a lot of, not low-end gigs, but low-end gigs. I mean, I always used to say that if I ever received an award for performing magic, I'd want to thank all the people who booked me when I was bad, because I knew I was bad, but I took their money anyway. I mean, I think you have to do gigs. And so we survived, and I wanted a career in magic. So you just kept working at it. It was passion.
What was that like for your family, your friends? What were they telling you?
Well, I think some people said, think seriously about reconsidering this. I think some of my colleagues at the law firm thought I was crazy, although they were probably afraid to admit it. But I believe you have to differentiate between real risk and perceived risk. And that Harry Houdini is the perfect example. He's paid a lot of money to do things that are perceived to be very risky, but if you do your planning, you can really reduce that risk. And I had done my planning, and I was the protege of probably one of the great sleight of hand artists of the 20th century, a guy named Ross Bertram, who is from Toronto. And I thought with his training and my background, and I had done this for a while, I was confident.
I want to ask you about the physical side of sleight of hand tricks. Sure. What kind of physical talent is involved with what you do?
Well, I think people think that the hand's faster than the eye. It's not. I think the physical aspects really involve tension relaxation. So you basically have to have great control over your body, as I think a dancer would or an actor would. And it's really being able to control all of those fine motor movements. I've practiced one card piece for every day now for 14 years. It's considered the most difficult sleight in the world. There's probably few can do it. And the idea of it is that I can just draw any three cards at any point during the shuffle from the pack and put them wherever I want just while you're riffling cards. And I've done so many fine motor skill repetitions of this that I thought I was getting arthritis in my fingers. And I went to a special sports therapist who realized, no, it was just fine motor skills without gross motor, differential to get them to snap back into place. So I'm using my hands a lot. It's very repetitive, but it's all controlling tension and relaxation with muscle control.
So the doctor was telling you you're working on these motor skills without the muscle?
Without doing broader movements. So I would literally do thousands of reps at a time. for precision and without doing broader movements. And so I was locking up my hands, and I was really scared. I thought I was getting arthritis in my hands at an early age, and I was prepared to videotape my repertoire because I wouldn't be able to do it down the line. And my mentor sort of suffered from that. And it turns out I think it may have just been the sheer amount of reps on fine motor skills that were causing the problem. So acupuncture and some physio later, and it's good to go.
You brought up videotaping your tricks. How hard is it to keep illusions or tricks a secret in the age of YouTube?
Well, it's interesting. They say that there's perhaps more published on magic than perhaps any other art form in the world. And so they say that the best way to keep something secret is to put it in print. And now it may be the best way to keep something secret is to post it on the internet. And just because it's posted there doesn't mean it's actually correct. So most of it's misinformation. So I'm not really worried about stuff on the internet. In fact, Magicana, our organization, we're now creating through funding from the Slate family, a web-based program that you can search any magic trick in the world and performance, all searchable. And we hope to provide a curatorial eye to the internet to try to guide people to wade through all the bad stuff. So I'm not bothered by it being on the internet.
You want people to see how these tricks are done.
I want people to see what good magic looks like, because how it's done is just such a minor part of it. The real secret to magic is that it's hidden within, it's the cumulative effect of hundreds of apparently inconsequential details. So that's almost impossible to describe. So to have someone understand that, to be able to describe it, and for someone else to understand it is very hard. But I'm hoping that if we can flag great performances, you can see it. So on our website, we devoted an exhibition to the cups and balls, a piece we do on our show. So if you go to magicana.com/cups, you will see an interactive exhibition that has the greatest clips of the performers performing that piece, the history of the piece, because I think an educated audience, not on the actual put your finger here and this is what works, I think this is better for magic.
Only have time for one more question, unfortunately. What do you think is at the heart of why people love magic?
I think people love magic because they want to know that there's something out there that they don't understand. I think Luc Sant got it right, that magic makes our world seem bigger, because if we didn't have those items to ignite our imagination, the world would be much diminished. It appeals to the child in all of us, and it just rekindles hope that there's something out there that we will one day learn what it is.
That's fascinating. On one hand, we're seeking understanding with so much of our time. And on the other hand, we're seeking wonder.
Right. It's all about wonder.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.